Well, good evening, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope you're all having a great day. The George Pickens move, it's kind of interesting because we've got a lot of people saying that literally nobody wanted George Pickens, that the the Steelers were desperate to move him, and that literally they would pick up the phone and call people about it, and they'd hang up on them. That's basically what they're saying, no deal whatsoever. And instead of looking at this and saying, compared to what the Eagles did to bring Jahada Dotson in, that this might be a pretty good move. And you look at it and say, they got him for a third round when they allegedly were asking for a second. And instantly, this is an improvement for our Cowboys offense and definitely some much needed help for Dak Prescott. And I don't know which way you guys go with this, but I look at it and say, this was what I wanted going into the draft. I wanted the Cowboys to get the running back, although we didn't get the running back early, but I'm okay with Jaden Blue. But I wanted to get a veteran wide receiver that I can plug in right now that I know can play. And we did that because I think wide receivers will take longer to develop than, say, a running back. So Pat McAfee has got this, why the hell did the Steelers trade George Pickens for a third-round pick? And this is opposite of what the modern offense is now. The modern offense is you want to go ahead and get multiple really good receivers. And the Steelers had one. They got rid of him, and now they're down to one with DK Metcalf. And instead of holding on to Pickens or being able to work it out, you've got an older wide receiver that's already getting paid. But be that as it may, let's listen to Pat McAfee and see what he got on it.
George Pickens has been traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Wait a second. The Steelers receive a 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. Okay, I don't know if they're trying to accrue picks or if this was the best offer that they were to get, but they send Pickens and a sixth-rounder to the Dallas Cowboys. In that graphic jersey swap that D-Bone did there is nasty. I mean, that is great work there, D-Bone. Awesome. Great work, D-Bone. That is a filthy picture right there. But George Pickens, I thought, me personally, as soon as DK Metcalf gets brought into the Pittsburgh Steelers, I immediately go, okay, this means George Pickens is gone. A lot of people are like, well, why would that mean that? Now they have another weapon. Now they got a second wide receiver. They've been looking for a second wide receiver. Why would, as soon as they get another wide receiver, why would they try to get rid of the guy that they have? And it's just like, I think there's a lot potentially going on in that room. That feels like a tough room. And, on Madden, you don't have to worry about humans. Okay, on Madden, it's just a rating. In fantasy football, whenever you're drafting somebody, you're not drafting the humans and whether or not they would get along. You're drafting the upside, the capability. In Madden, it's like, what is their best day? That is their number. Humans becoming a team is the most important part of a successful football franchise. I'd assume any sport, but definitely in the NFL. With the way things have gone with George Pickens in Pittsburgh, adding in DK Metcalf with how things were going with DK in Seattle, that just felt like too much TNT for me in one particular room when there's only one football on the field. I assumed GP was going to get traded. Substantive moves that I'm looking to make either before. Give me a microphone. Yeah, I just talked to a guy that can do things. Omar Khan, you ever heard of him? I got a big move. Has this been the plan all along for the Dallas Cowboys to bring in George Pickens? Has the plan been to move on from George Pickens? How long has that been the plan? There's so many more questions. But what I do know is George Pickens is a dog whenever he's on the field, when he wants to be. There's obviously clips and moments from his career thus far that are going to be questioned. And if he was to be playing like the way he plays in the NFL, in college, whenever he'd be going through the draft, there'd be a lot of people nitpicking a lot of the decisions that he made on the field and things that he said and done off the field. With that being said, upside through every roof that you've ever seen. If you can get him to buy in, and if you can get him to love his team, and you can get him in an offense, Shoddy and the boys are going to have to figure that out down there with Dak. If you can get him an offense that he is going to do well in, he has the chance to be megastar. So I assume that the Steelers view this as a win because they're going to move in a different direction. And if I'm George Pickens, I think I'm pretty excited for a new start, fresh start as well, especially down there in Dallas. AP Tone, obviously diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. You thought it was going to be DK, GP, Freiermuth, even Warren in there. You thought that was going to be the case. I think a lot of people had hopes for that. I think in the building there was a decision on is this sustainable? Yes. Is this sustainable for 18 weeks, 17 games with the roller coaster that happens throughout a football season?
Yeah, I think my whole thing yesterday was that 2025 Steelers fan me was bummed out because, yes, I wanted to see all those guys play together. Was it going to work out? Who knows? It was going to be electric. It was going to be fireworks, whether it was good or bad. 2025 me was very excited to see this offense as a whole, potentially with Aaron throwing to these guys. 2026 and moving forward me thinks is a very smart move. They were never going to pay George. He's going into a contract year. This was his final year. They were never going to pay DK 30 and then pay George 25 to 30. And like you said, he was a first-round talent coming out. He fell to the second round because of some of the stuff that you've heard about George, about showing up late to games and stuff like that. I just don't think the Steelers organization wanted to deal with that anymore. Now, listen, the Steelers fan base was not happy at all yesterday about this. Now, if you looked at it with a level head, you could have been like I was 2026 moving forward. We're never gonna pay this guy. We're gonna get a third-round pick. We now have 12 picks going into the 2026 draft that is in Pittsburgh. 3 third-round picks now in that draft to potentially move up, get your future. But just the whole thing, this was always going to be the case. I think this was the smartest move moving forward for the team. I know a lot of people are pissed about it, but 2025, were you really going to win the Super Bowl? Was he going to help you win the Super Bowl? Maybe, probably not. So I think this was the smartest move.
Well, I saw a little Aaron Rodgers derangement syndrome,
Sure.
Where
his fault.
He I don't even know if he knows George yet, but what he likes, he's not even on the Steelers. What he likes from a wide receiver is certainly something that George is not. So Aaron's going to want him to operate, and whether or not it is still going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler for the long haul. Are we going to pay him to be a long one? Maybe we can game wrecker. I'm happy to hear the Dallas Cowboys still have hope that is the case, and hopefully he'll be able to accomplish it. George Pickens is the Dallas Cowboy. Is this what Jerry Jones was referring to before the draft when he said, I'm up to something here? I got a little something going on. I'm thinking about 2 substantive trades or whatever it is. Substantive trades. Maybe before the draft, maybe after the draft. Shit, I'm up next year. Who knows? There's something coming. I'm cooking it. That is what he was talking about this entire time. And when did the Steelers decide they were going to move on from George Pickens, you think, and send him anywhere, let alone to the Dallas Cowboys?
All right, first the Steelers part of it. So they trade for DK Metcalf, obviously big trade, kind of beef up their receiving core. And, if you look at it, it's like teams rarely have 2 great receivers. It's hard, right? I mean, the Bengals do, but look at what it took for the Bengals to have those 2 and then pay both of them. Usually what teams do is they have one great one and other young ones or complementary, because it's to allocate that much resources,
it's hard.
A challenge. You can do it, but it's a challenge. And so it seems the Steelers wanted to hang on to George Pickens. They wanted to keep George Pickens, but there was a price where it's all right, at some point, this is worth it, right? Because if they weren't going to pay him, which by trading him, they made it clear they were not looking to pay this guy the extension price, then it's if he leaves as a big-time free agent, he's worth a third-round pick compensatory. So they basically locked that in now, and they trade him to the Cowboys, who were looking, since you're right, this was before the draft. Actually thought this was going to get done before the draft. And I thought, because usually teams want to do it for the draft picks, then they make the draft picks, and then that's your trade. Didn't get done for whatever reason. The Cowboys weren't able to get a receiver. If Tetero and McMillan was there at 12, maybe this trade wouldn't have happened. I think it probably wouldn't have. But they didn't get the receiver they wanted. They make the trade, get a big receiver too. It's a gamble, but big time talent for the Cowboys.
George is so good whenever he's playing. It's just so everything good. Else. Are they able to get him to buy in? New head coach, first-time head coach now in Dallas. with him on the team. It's something you would have to monitor. We will as football fans. But if him
Most
and Dak get on the same page and he rolls down there as a Dallas Cowboy, which he might feel more comfortable as. Go ahead.
The whole thing is a little bit funny because Jerry Jones went and did the whole, like, I don't know, Micah Parsons agent. And then it's like.
One
to go. So that's interesting that he may have been moved for Aaron Rodgers.